No one likes being lied to, and most people don't consider themselves liars. However, lying has become so prevalent in our culture that psychologists and scientists are exploring what motivates people to lie and have identified two types of lies and the motivations behind them. According to Psychology Today, these two types of lies are self serving lies and kind hearted lies, and each serves their own purpose to the person telling them. The former, for instance, is meant to help the person telling the lie look better than they may feel they actually are, and the latter, on the other hand, is meant to protect someone else's feelings in a genuine manner, despite the fact that it's being done through telling a lie. To identify a fib, you first have to have a baseline for how someone acts when they're being honest, says Tracy Brown, body language expert. For example, watch how someone responds to a basic question such as, "Where are you from?" "Where do their eyes go?" "How does their voice sound?" Once you've established that baseline, look for shifts in behavior in four different categories: bodily movements, facial expressions, tone of voice, and content of speech. Those are the codes of communication. Psychologist Robert Feldman cites self-esteem as one of the biggest culprits in our lying ways. We find that as soon as people feel that their self-esteem is threatened, they immediately begin to lie at higher levels. Feldman believes many lies are simply for the purpose of maintaining social contacts by avoiding insults or discord. Small lies that avoid conflict are probably the most common sort of lie, and avoiding conflict is a top motivator for deception. For example, someone lying about traffic holding them up rather than sleeping in, or a "no, you look great in those pants." Both sort of lies achieve the effect of avoiding social conflict. They are make life easier kind of lies. Back to the self-esteem angle, the farther one's true self is from their ideal self, the more likely they are to boost themselves up in others' eyes or their eyes, or perhaps how they perceive others to perceive them. Lying is part of everyday life, but when lying gets out of control, it can wreak havoc in your personal and professional lives, potentially destroying relationships and careers. Out of control lying is known as compulsive or pathological lying. Definitions are fluid, experts say. Compulsive liars have a need to embellish and exaggerate. They tell the stories they think want to be heard. When you ask a compulsive liar for an opinion on an important issue, they're likely to say something like this: "You know, you've made a really wise choice in asking for my opinion. Many people do. I've actually been asked by the governor of California to comment on this." Often, they're pretty good liars. You often believe what they say, at least for a while. Pathological liars may be even bolder. They continue to lie when they know you know they're lying. The two types of lies are pretty similar, and actually you could be a compulsive pathological liar. Experts don't know for sure what drives the troublesome lying. They know impulsivity and a need to impress could be linked to the habit, but they've debated whether or not these types of lying are symptoms or a disease. Liars' brains may differ structurally from the average brain. Scientists did brain scans on pathological liars and others and found that the liars had more white matter in the brain's prefrontal cortex. They concluded that the increase in white matter may somehow provide these super liars with the cognitive capacity to lie. The idea of not lying is strangely controversial. Most people seem to feel lying in some circumstances is not only acceptable but desirable. And in fact, I agree. If you have to lie, for example, to save someone's life, or if lying turns out to be ultimately more compassionate than telling the truth, lying is probably the correct course of action to take. But most of the time, most of us don't lie out of the spirit of compassion. And even when we do, we usually make the assumption that people are essentially fragile and have egos that will likely collapse, or at the very least be injured if they hear unpleasant feedback. But there's a wonderful, if subtle, benefit to aiming for honesty in as many circumstances as we can. It motivates us to strive to become all the good things lying helps us pretend we already are. Every time we come up against one of the above-mentioned reasons for lying, it unmasks a character defect we then have the opportunity to change. To live with the intent to avoid doing anything we'd ever feel the need to cover up leads to a remarkably stress-reduced life.